Okay, welcome to our EYSA Soccer Parent Clinic. We're here to go through a number of topics, and these topics are ones that, for the most part, are brought to us directly from you, the parents and the coaches. We receive them from our registrars, primarily from the I should say six EYSA clubs. We've heard from coaches, we've heard from referees, and these are the topics that keep coming up over and over that are either very relevant to just this year, but a lot of them are relevant for many years. So we're going to go through these, and hopefully you'll find the content helpful and interesting. Here's our agenda. We're going to go over player pathways. Well, you can read it. I'm not going to bore you with your reading skills. We'll leave time at the end for Q&A, and if time allows, we'll get to those last two bullets. All right, player pathways. We'll start off with Aaron.
Okay. So this is the player pathway, and just for your own information, it goes from the very lowest and youngest levels to the very top. We'll try to focus on what's most important for you guys and where kind of EYSA sits. So at the very youngest levels, there's micro, and it's U6 and U7. And then above that, you have Junior Academy, which would be an Eastside FC offering. It's similar to the mod teams at U8, U11, but this is with the paid Eastside FC coach. And then there's recreational and select. Select starts at U10 today, and it goes up until U18. Recreational at this level, I mean, it's up to down here is recreational 12, but this tier is U12 to U18. And then above that, we have a U9 to U18 offering that's Premier. And that's primarily Eastside FC, although there's some Premier teams at the local level as well. Mostly in Mercer Island. Bellevue also has some RCL teams. Above that, I'll just go through this really quickly. If your child is doing, unbelievably well at the Premier level, they can try out for the Elite Player Development Program. And for those that have played soccer their whole lives, that used to be called ODP, which is Olympic Developmental Pools. And those plug into the regional and then the national team. So the team that just made the World Cup is coming on these sorts of programs as well. Kind of next to that would be EPD State, and that's just the state pool I was just referring to. And then you have Development Academy now at actually U13 starting next year, I believe, and that's Eastside FC, Crossfire, and the Eastside Club works with the Sounders as an affiliate club, so there's about 5 or 6 of them that plug into the actual Sounders Academy. And above that, you basically have college and professional careers at the very top. So this is kind of where EYSA sits. We offer all of this within our association. And if you don't know, we have Lake Hills, we have Bellevue, we have Newport, Mercer Island, Issaquah, and the Eastside FC. So again, this is just a snapshot of the same table over here with all the different levels we have. So new and old rules.
Okay, so we polled the audience and came up with one major new rule and one major old rule that parents always seem to be asking about, confused about, wondering why is it there, how does it work? So the new rule is what we call the no poaching, or sometimes referred to as the build-out lines rule. So the genesis of this is, and I've been coaching since my kids were this small. And back in those days, this build-out rule didn't exist. So what would happen is invariably the kids are 6, 7 years old, and they go back to take the goal kick, and they'd run up, and they'd do their darndest to get that ball up off the ground and outside of the penalty area. But 9 times out of 10, unless the coach figured out who that really big kicker was at that young age group, the ball would barely trickle out of the penalty area. And the smart coaches would tell their offensive players to line the edges of the penalty area, wait for that ball to just trickle out, grab the ball, and then dribble and kick it back in the goal. So it was really kind of unfair from an defensive perspective. But what was even more unfair is that as the kids got older and more of them learned how to kick the ball farther, they would do just that. They would boot the ball to save their lives. We got to get it out of the goal. And what fails then at that point is a valuable skill set, which in some ways, if you look at the Sounders play, for example, is still lacking even in the pro ranks. And that's this notion of being able to build the play slowly out of the back. Careful possession, passing play, where you can maintain possession, work the ball up the field, and keep possession. Because if you just kick it far as a goal kick, who knows who's going to come down with the ball? It could be your team, it could be the other team. So the notion is here, we restrict the marking of the boxes, the penalty area, on the goal kicks. And we require, through this rule, starting at U8, that kids have to go all the way back to the midfield line before they can advance on that goal kick. And the timing of when they can advance on that goal kick, not only does the goal kick have to take place and clear the penalty area, but it has to be received successfully by somebody on that defensive team. So what we've given the kid a chance to do, or the kids a chance to do, is kick it, but not boot it, kick it, almost make a pass out of that goal area, receive it, turn, look, think, who am I going to pass it to, and hopefully execute a successful pass to somebody else on their team, and begin to do that process of working it out. We reduce the number of goals, and this notion of escalated player development, meaningful player touches, and most importantly, decision making, so they can think of, okay, I've got the ball at my feet. Yes, there's players coming at me from the other team from the midfield, but who am I going to pass it to? Who's open? Where are their passing lines, etc.? This is what's going on. We actually here at EYSA implemented the rule long before it was mandated by US Soccer, and it's something we've continued to do to this day as other clubs are then now mandating it. There's different implementations. Some clubs and some age groups require you to go all the way to the midfield. Some have lines about halfway between the penalty area and midfield. The concept is there, and it's really working. So that's what it's all about. It's there for a reason, and it's working quite well. The other rule, as you may have guessed or anticipated, is this dreaded offside rule. It's always been there. It's changed a little bit over the years. It's hard to understand. It's hard to officiate in some cases. As well as a coach, I'm also a referee. And every year when we get our retraining for referees, it's one of the areas that we spend the most time on discussing, analyzing, looking at videotapes of the pros of college games. And okay, is that offside or is it not offside? How can you tell? So from a beginner or even advanced perspective, what is offside? So first thing to understand, there's a difference between being in an offside position and being offside. Anybody can be in an offside position, and that's not illegal. You can stand in all different places and be in an offside position, but that doesn't mean that the AR is going to raise their flag. It doesn't mean the ref is going to blow the whistle. If you're offside and you get whistled, that's because not only are you in that offside position, but you're also being involved in play in some way, shape, or form, or distracting the goalie, or receiving the ball in an illegal manner. That's when the offside takes place. So how do you become offside? How do you get in an offside position? Any part of your body, except your arms, has to be in that offside position. So it can be just your head, it can be your foot, it can be your rear end, whatever it means. You have to be in offside position, which means that you're closer to the goal than the second to last defender. One of those defenders is the goalie, and then one other defender. That's what makes you in an offside position. You can't be offside, or you can't be in an offside position if it's a throw-in, a corner kick, if you're on your side of the field, or if you have at least two players. So you'll see the good strikers, the good forwards, always sort of be looking, let me look around both sides of me, make sure there's at least one player, plus assuming the goalie, and that's how they sort of time themselves to look around to make sure they're not offside. The tricky part, though, is in addition to everything else you have to remember as a ref or as a player, that if a ball comes in and it gets knocked off the goalpost, off the goalie, and then back into somebody who's in an offside position, because then they become they become ready to play the ball, that's still an offside call. So sometimes you think, well, that can't be offside because it hit the goalpost or hit the goalie. Still, that's technically an offside position, and that's an offside whistle. So there's a lot to it. As I joke around it, I lived in the Midwest for a while. I went to a lot of Chicago Blackhawks hockey games, and there's something called icing in hockey, which is quasi-similar to offside. I never quite understood icing. I sort of nodded and smiled and said, okay, yeah, that's icing. It's a tricky rule, but it's an important part of the game. So look at it, embrace it, educate yourself, and hopefully my brief explanation has helped a little bit to further your understanding. From there, I think we're going back to Aaron. Oh, sorry, one other quick, I lied, I have 3 slides. There's a couple other areas that are slightly misunderstood. Advantage, slide tackles, shoulder tackles, and heading. Advantage is when you're on the field and you see your son or your daughter go down in a tumble, which is a clear foul from them getting kicked, nudged, pushed, etc. And they fall and you're yelling, "Ref, that's a foul," and the ref doesn't call a thing. He or she doesn't blow their whistle. All you see him doing this. What this means is the ref is trying to help, believe it or not, the ref is trying to help your son or your daughter by allowing play to go on, because in spite of your fact your son or your daughter got fouled, one of their teammates ended up with the ball and is proceeding downfield heading towards the goal to score. And so the notion is you don't want the ref to blow a foul, because that would cut off the advantage that your team has by going towards the goal. If the ref sees that after a brief period of time that advantage doesn't materialize because the ball is tackled away or is lost, he or she will blow their whistle, bring the ball back, actually call a foul, and it'll be a direct or indirect free kick from that point. But as long as they can, they're going to give your team that advantage. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but sometimes they'll give it the advantage. A period longer than normal will go by, and then your team will lose the ball. And then obviously at that point they can't bring it back, but that's sort of the risk and reward of the advantage call. Slide tackles, we don't allow them in the younger age groups. As the kids get older, yes, we allow them, but still they've got to be clean. They can't from behind, they can't have steads up. They've got to not just get the ball, but get it in a clean, safe manner. So you'll see refs, particularly at the younger ages, be very careful and very almost overly diligent the way they blow the whistle for slide tackles. Shoulder tackles is one that's often misunderstood, that we actually encourage clean shoulder-to-shoulder tackles, charging, if you will, but charging in an aggressive but legal manner, as long as the arms don't come out from the body, as long as they're not pulling and shoving and tearing in the hair, body, jersey, then it's okay. That's clean. That's what you want. Soccer is meant to be an aggressive game. It's just not meant to be an illegal game. So we encourage those shoulder-to-shoulder tackles within reason. And finally, heading, as a result of many different medical studies, the U.S. youth soccer in general is working to decrease heading, so you can't start heading either in practice or in games until you're 11 or older. And even then, it's something we try to be careful with in terms of watching what concussion effects might result from not just, usually not the actual heading the ball, but two people going and heading the ball at the same time and end up knocking heads. Then we have to deal with it as well. But the heading thing, it used to be we practice it all the time. Even the younger ages now, we're done. It's something we're really careful with. All right, now I'm really going to go to Aaron.
Okay, hopefully I have the slides up next that I think is up next, but just by a show of hands, because I can't have you ask questions yet, who thinks soccer is an athletic sport? All right. It is the wrong slide. Anyways, we'll get to this. I'm going to be discussing periodization later and some of the principles around that. It's going to be new to you guys. This is actually from our coaching blueprint. And our coaching blueprints, it's always a work in progress, it's organic, it's alive, it's evolving. But basically it's a system, if you will, or a philosophy that encourages players to use their brains and make decisions and do so in a manner that all the players learn the same way, as opposed to, you know, Jimmy and Paul and Yoshiko learning from 3 different coaches, totally different concepts. So this is an example from the blueprint. As I said, it's all about developing clever players that are technically superior or technically able, if you will, but that happens by them making their own decisions, not a coach telling them the answers all the time. But one of the important things about this is, and within a club, maybe it's any of your clubs, we'd rather have this be association-wide, but it's quite difficult, is just systems of play. This is a small part of it, but you can see here in 3-a-side, there's a triangle. In 4-a-side, there's 2 triangles or a diamond. In 5-a-side, there should be lots of different ways to make lots of different triangles, plus the goalie. But the goalie should also be playing in the field, so these angles should exist in this red. I don't know if you can see it. But the angles should be existent with the goalie. So the goalie should actually be playing like a sweeper keeper, or playing in the field and distributing the ball around the back. And then those same angles and triangles and shapes move to 6-a-side and 9-a-side. We actually have 7-a-side as well, and then to 11-a-side. So you'll see the same formation. This would be called a 1-2, 1-2 maybe. But those same patterns go up as you go up in ages. So that just helps define the roles. What is your outside winger's position? What are the roles of that position? What is your center mid or your pivot player? Who's providing depth up top, like your striker, what kind of runs the striker makes. So it would be beneficial for the kids, these young players here, to not be told differently at every level they go up to, including up to the Sounders. This is an example of another benefit of the blueprint. Every week our young coaches get either a session plan from the Sounders, or they get one at the older ages from the association. Every week they're a similar topic. This week looks like it's 1v1 attacking, and this one is attacking. So it's not like you're doing in a session, you're not going to do attacking and finishing and defending and heading and things like this. You want to have the session and the whole cycle, if you will, be on one topic or one related topic, so that it's the kids can learn in a clearer fashion. Okay, paid coach versus trainer versus parent coach. Scott put in good, better, best. I'll just go through them and you guys can see what you think is good, better, and best. But most of our association actually has parent coaches. And these are, you might have to run 1 or 2 practices a week and then one game usually. It's great for the community to have, you guys are all seem like you're dedicated because you're here, but it's really good for the community to be around a role model, around a whole bunch of kids. The coaches that really step up and offer their time and their energy and their support, you'll see some of those coaches stay with that age group from U6 all the way up. And there's just a lot of community benefits from that. Now sometimes the players that are excelling, scoring 100 goals a game, you want to probably push those kids to a different team, different coach, different level. But these sorts of people in our community are required for the sport. And we'll go through the player pathway later, so remember that. We have lots of resources that make your job a lot easier if you guys are interested in coaching. You get a weekly session plan. We pay for your licenses. We offer free clinics. The Sounders do an annual clinic for just EYSA. So lots of stuff to make your job super easy. And then the best part about it is recreational soccer is the most inexpensive way to play. And our country is the most expensive country in the world to play soccer. So our recreational level is the cheapest by far. This is usually a select level. Some of you guys play select, but at the select level, we oftentimes have a parent coach coaching the games and then a trainer coaching the actual practices. So the cost goes up a little bit because we usually have to pay the trainer to do the practice. And then lastly, at the premier level, and actually at a lot of select levels now, there's a full-time coach. Problem is, the prices go way up. I mean, you know, usually above $2,000 a player. And then it's also hard to find, you know, a coach that you would like to spend that kind of money on typically. And back to the pathway. So, you know, if you look at this pathway, we went over it before some of you guys walked in, but 90% of the country play in this level, okay? 80% of the country play in this level. So just 15% even play at the elite level. So that means we need to invest where the masses are. We need to help folks like you guys and coaches that are coaching the young ages and the recreational ages. Because if we bring those levels up, so players are learning the right things and developing in the right way, the whole pyramid comes up, so we won't miss any more World Cups. So the World Cup issue isn't a problem with, it is a problem with the big player pool, but it's also a problem with how these players are developed. So investing here is going to produce a lot more. For example, are you guys familiar with Catalonia? That's where Barcelona sits. They're, you know, roughly the size of maybe Washington State, yet they have, you know, players and players coming out every neighborhood of the city, virtually. So they obviously are very efficient, which the U.S. is not yet. Okay, back to Scott.
Okay, so again, we polled the audience and found a couple areas around referees and around registration processes that there seem to be a lot of questions or uncertainties around. Let's start with refs. And these are things, actually all of these come up year after year after year. They always come up. First one, and this one particularly emerges at the beginning of the season, is earrings. A girl or a boy may have just gotten their ears pierced in preparation for the school year, and the first game comes up, and the referee, as they should, go around and say, okay, you need to remove all jewelry, including earrings. And that particular girl says, well, I just got them put in, and my doctor, my earring person said, I can't take them out or else my ears will close up, the holes will close up. And there usually ensues many tears, many issues, coaches, parents getting upset and angry. But not only do you have to take them out, you can't just, some people say, well, if I put tape over them or a Band-Aid or something. No, that doesn't work either. This is not just EYSA, the soccer community, being persnickety about a rule. If you look online, and I don't encourage you to, but you need to have a solid stomach and look at some pictures of people who have played with earrings and gotten it caught on a player's fingernail inadvertently, or a piece of clothing, and had that earring get ripped out and parts of the ear along with it. It's a dangerous, messy thing. So we do it for a reason, and we do the same thing for watches and jewelry, etc. It's for the player's safety. So this is something that referees will be extremely dogmatic about enforcing. And as parents, your job, I ask of all of you, is to not put up a fight, go along with it. If you see one of your fellow parents putting up that fight, step in if it feels right and let them know what's going on, that there is a reason for this. Earrings is number one. Existence is number two. You parents are probably neck and neck with coaches for being the number one reason why we have such a hard time getting referees. Parents sit on the sidelines, are angry, or enthusiastic, I guess is the positive way to put it, but their enthusiasm often goes a little bit awry, and the recipient of that unstructured enthusiasm is usually the youth referee who's out there trying their best to make a little money on the side, but also make sure this game can be played. And oftentimes those frustrations spill over to the ref. The ref ends up cutting their season short, and then all of a sudden we don't have that ref the next year, and not only that, we don't have the ref telling her friends, oh, you should go ref, it's great, you can earn some money, because they say you had such a bad experience. So again, my ask of you as parents, maintain your composure. The ref, in fact, think of that ref as if he or she is your daughter or son, because they might be your daughter or son. And what would you do, what would you say, how would you behave if that was your son out there in the field? Which brings me to the next point, which I mentioned to and alluded to earlier. Wow, what a great way to make some extra money. So if you are a young teenager who is not driving yet, but wants to earn some money, you're probably going to earn a lot better money refereeing soccer games than you are doing odd jobs around the house, and you're certainly not old enough to work at McDonald's or someplace else. Not only can you earn a lot of money as a kid refereeing these games, but for all you parents out there who are sitting there being your sideline referee or sideline coach thinking, gosh, I can do a better job than that ref out there. Well, here's your opportunity. We need parent refs especially to go out there, and being a referee doesn't mean that you have to be the center ref making all the tough calls and blowing your whistle. You can be an easily assistant referee. You get to wave a pretty flag around, run up and down the sidelines. We need those referees too. It's great exercise. It's a good way to get to know the game better, understand all these fun rules like offside, and we need you too. We need you for the older games. We need you for all the tournaments that are constantly being scheduled, unfortunately, and you'll hear more about that from Aaron later. But and you as parents can earn upwards of $50 a game. Ref a couple games, you have enough money to go out to dinner with your husband or wife and enjoy yourself. So there's a good payoff in addition to the exercise, and obviously in addition to helping out this game and your kids. Finally, there's this thing called RIP. It's not rest in peace, it's ref in pool. And this is a mechanism, a process we have to try to get more of the adult refs 16 or older. The way it works is every team who's a U13 rec team or any level of select or premier team is responsible for nominating some referee who's 16 years or older into this RIP, this ref in pool. That nominated person can be an uncle, aunt, neighbor, relative, who knows, it doesn't matter as long as there's somebody who's willing to go out and ref at least 10 games over the course of the season. In exchange for doing this, you guarantee your team the ability to have a tiny little star next to every game that your team plays in the season. So that means that there's a much higher level of guarantee that your team is going to receive a full complement of refs, 2 ARs plus a center, and get your team staffed first with referees. Because we have such a dwindling set of referees, the staffing of the ref and pool program allows then you to make sure that your team is guaranteed those, or nearly guaranteed those refs when you need them. That's the ref issues we hear. Went too fast. There we go. Let's go back to registration policies. So this is one that is confusing, or we get a lot of questions about, and we particularly have received a lot of questions about this in the last year. The first one is this thing of birth year rules, which requires a proof of birth to make sure that we're actually getting kids that are going in the right age group. Well, let me take you back 15, 20 years when my kids first started playing. And just after, or just before, I can't remember any longer, they started playing, the rule was, that the way things were done, was it was based on birth year. That's the way you registered a kid. If they were born in 1996, which my oldest kid was, that would determine what team they went on. And then just after they started that, they decided, the U.S. decided, hey, you know what, this isn't working. We're going to go to school year. So they changed it over to school year. And boy, was there just this huge hue and cry. Everybody's going, this is terrible. I don't understand it. It's wrong. I would have to change. And everybody was lamenting the fact that it went to school year. A couple years went by. That became the norm. Everybody said, this is the way it's done. It's great. It's based on school year. So guess what happened last year? Well, they changed it again. They changed it back to birth year. And when I say they, it wasn't EYSA, it wasn't Washington State, it was U.S. Soccer. And they did it for a couple different reasons. They did it because, lo and behold, that's the way the rest of the world does it. So we were really trying to align U.S. Soccer with the way it's played, and the way the age groups are determined all over the world. The concept that makes it easier to understand, it makes it more liable that we're going to not allow either inadvertently or inadvertently kids to register themselves for multiple teams, multiple age groups in a weird sort of way. The other thing is this notion of RAE, which stands for relative age effect. So the notion here is we want to make sure that kids who look older aren't prioritized in terms of team selection because of their size and their relative maturity, but it's based purely on an unbiased age selection process, which we can do with the birth year. So net message here, short-term confusion, long-term gain, hopefully, and for those of you who went through this process with us starting last year and obviously continue this year, last year we had what I call the registration chaos period, where we purposefully said, hey, you know what, we want to keep these kids who have already formed teams to play together. So we basically took off all of our restrictions around play-ups, play-downs, and said, we want to keep the teams together, so we're not going to mandate the specific age. We're just going to allow the teams to either all go up or all play down together. And then this year we went back to normal to standardize it. But we did our best within the rules that we were provided with from U.S. Soccer to normalize it from a starting standpoint. And now, of course, all the new teams that can form are formed based on birth years. We have other key criteria for team selection in terms of how we do this in an unbiased way so that teams aren't loaded up. We do it based on first come, first serve in the registration process. We have very specific rules about play-ups in terms of not letting kids who are younger play again up to older age groups. There are policies the way that works, particularly in select, so that kids who are truly gifted or playing above their years do have the opportunity to play at a more aggressive age level, but even there's restrictions because we want to make sure that there's not a situation where a ton of kids are playing up an age group, and by doing that, disadvantaging the kids who are actually those ages and not allowing them to find a spot on a team. So there are certain restrictions for that, and certainly with play downs, if there's kids who have health or size